Okay. My minister is working very hard, day in, day out, the Minister of Environment, so that he can leave a legacy of clean air, clean water for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, as we all know, Great Lakes are an essential part of our heritage, and they are also indispensable to our future. As Minister of Environment said in his statement, that this is a unique piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, yes, this is a unique piece of legislation, and the question arises why this unique and important piece of legislation is necessary. Great Lakes are truly a global treasure. More than 13 million people in the province of Ontario rely on the Great Lakes in one way or another, for such as drinking water, food, electricity, employment, and enjoyment. So healthy Great Lakes are vital to the success of our province. In fact, the Great Lakes regional economy is the fourth largest in the world. The Great Lakes contain 20% of the world's fresh surface water and contribute billions of dollars every year to our economy through agriculture, shipping, clean hydropower, fisheries, and tourism, to name a few. Fortunately, this government has made water protection and the protection of our aquatic ecosystems a top priority. As we heard from our minister, the proposed act, if passed, would help to ensure our Great Lakes are restored, protected, and made more resilient to the effects of climate change here in Ontario. Mr. Speaker, the memories of December 2013 ice storm are still fresh in our minds, when thick ice knocked down trees and electricity cables and made our roads impassable, and people were without electricity, without food for days and days. This is how this climate change is impacting our lives. And we have seen this past winter, I have heard people saying in the Greater Toronto area that they have never seen that cold a winter with minus 30, minus 37, 40 degree consecutively for 2 months. This is all is a result of climate change. And we can see the impact of climate change in Ontario even today as severe weather phenomena become more common, such as heavy downpours are now twice as common as they were a century ago. Rainfall and snowfall events are more extreme. Flooding and droughts are more common. The proposed act also builds on actions we are taking to reduce harmful algal blooms, promote environment stewardship, and help local communities and partners to take action. Ontario as an ecosystem, a system that includes its people, are dominated by the Great Lakes and the rivers and water systems that feed. The proposed Great Lakes Protection Act is an important piece of legislation that will focus solely on our largest source of fresh water and home to thousands of fish and wildlife species. Minister of Environment outlined the challenges and pressures facing the Great Lakes and the types of problems we need to address. We work with many dedicated partners across the province, Mr. Speaker, who have told us how important this proposed act would be for the health of our Great Lakes. These partners have important environmental concerns such as protecting valuable wetlands around the lakes and restoring natural shorelines. But they also recognize that a healthy economy requires a healthy environment. Without the Great Lakes, Mr. Speaker, Ontario simply would not be the great province that it is today. Almost 75% of Canada's manufacturing, along with 80% of Ontario's power generation and 95% of our agricultural lands depend on the Great Lakes. Throughout Ontario and in my own community of Mississauga-Brampton South, a center of manufacturing and population growth, the importance of this essential relationship may not be widely enough understood. This government intends to work with all of our Great Lake partners. It comes to doing what it needs to be done. One important feature of the proposed act is the formation of the Great Lakes Guardian Council. It would be a forum for collaboration, cooperation, and a place for sharing knowledge and resources. The Council's members would include provincial ministers that have responsibilities related to Great Lakes. It would also include, as our minister said, municipal representatives and partners from First Nations and Métis communities. Others invited contributors would include partners from environmental groups, industry, farmers, recreation and tourism, and the science community. This sort of collaboration would allow the Ontario's government or other public bodies, such as municipalities or conservation authority, to develop and implement a plan to address priority issues in a specific location. The Council is also empowered by the proposed legislation to discuss targets and developing local and or regional initiatives to support the people who want to restore and protect their corner of the Great Lakes. The Council could have input into implementing interjurisdictional agreements seeking to protect the lakes, such as the recently signed Canada-Ontario Agreement on Great Lakes Water Quality and Ecosystem Health and the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement that was strengthened in 2012 by the governments of Canada and the US. In amending the agreement, Canada and the US addressed the spread of invasive species and the loss of habitat and indigenous species within the Great Lakes. Both of these new agreements outline commitments for considering climate change impacts on the Great Lakes, which is also very real and important aspect of this Bill 66. Commitments that Ontario made under the new Canada-Ontario Agreement on water quality and ecosystem health will support provincial Great Lakes goals, targets, and Ontario's Great Lakes strategy. The proposed act would advance the implementation of existing agreements and enable the province to take action quickly in acute situations and focus on preventing conditions in the Great Lakes from deteriorating. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the proposed act requires the regular review, reporting on, and maintenance of Ontario's Great Lakes strategy. The strategy is a roadmap that sets out our vision, goals, and priorities to help restore, protect, and conserve the Great Lakes. The strategy focuses government resources across ministries and benefits from the ideas and advice of other government and non-government partners. Regular review of the strategy as this act would require allow us to respond to emerging issues and new science and establish new milestones on our way to restoring and protecting the Great Lakes. Mr. Speaker, good science, research, and monitoring partnerships will also help support the Great Lakes. Work by providing the knowledge and data to help identify issues, set priorities, establish Great Lakes targets, and guide effective restoration and protection initiatives. Mr. Speaker, as Minister of Environment said, that First Nations and Métis communities that have a historic relationship with the Great Lakes may wish to contribute traditional ecological knowledge for the purposes of assisting in actions done under this proposed act. So it's very, very important that we must take action. If we don't take action now, Mr. Speaker, then when? And we want all our Ontarians to renew their own connection to our Great Lakes. Together, we can help to ensure clean, healthy, and resilient Great Lakes. In closing, I would encourage all members of this House to support the vision of healthy Great Lakes for a stronger Ontario. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.